Like a shows, I took the blows and did it God's way.
Let's give Mr. Taylor one more round of applause, please. I did it God's way. Beautiful, beautiful. Next on our program, we have our presentations by Ms. Kenyatta McKinley and Sabrina Young and Mr. Chavis Jackson. Mr. Jackson, I'll give you a little bit more information about them. It's written in the program. He received a gift certificate from the local chapter, Charleston Day Club, and Sabrina Young was awarded the Dr. Ethel Johnson Green Educational Award, and Ms. Kenyatta McKinley was awarded the Pittman Taylor Educational Award, and those are listed in the program. So at this time, I will have them to come forward.
Good afternoon. First, giving honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to the Holy Spirit, to President of the National Charleston Day Chapter, Mr. Alvin Johnson, President of Charleston Chapter, Mrs. Eula Johnson, both past and present Charlestonians, and to all visitors and friends. It's a blessing today to stand before you as the recipient of the Luana Pitts Scholarship Award. I'm very honored and grateful. With help from me, I am currently enrolled in the Mississippi University for Women, pursuing a bachelor's degree in nursing with dreams of becoming a pediatrician. I am pleased to be receiving this award because I am receiving it in honor of Mrs. Luana Pitts Taylor, who was a devoted member of the Charleston Day organization. She served as national president from June 1996 to her death in March of 2001. Her knowledge and ideas helped the organization in its formative years to formulate the bylaws and mission and vision statement that guides the organization today. The Luana Pitts Scholarship Educational Award, named in honor of this courageous and committed Charlestonians, is presented to a Charleston High School graduate each year, and this year it happens to be me. In May, I graduated with honors from Charleston High School. I'm excited about receiving this scholarship this year. I'm not only excited about receiving this scholarship because it helped me with my financial obligations at school, but I'm excited about receiving it on the year that you all are in my hometown of Charleston, Mississippi. We all know the saying that there is no place like home, and this saying alone helped me receive a scholarship because a lady from my hometown made a difference. As I thought about receiving this award, I thought about 5 reasons why Charlestonians always come back home. Number 1, to celebrate. You all know black folks love to party. Number 2, for the connections, to reconnect with family, friends, and classmates. Number 3, to cry tears of joy, knowing that the road has not always been easy, but always worth it. Number 4, to confront our past and see how it can help us create memories for our future. And the best reason of all, our food. For the cooking, the bottom line is we all know why we come back home, to eat. Greens, candy yams, neck bones, and homemade cornbread. And let us not forget the barbecue. You can't get good cooking like this anywhere but home. In closing, I am again thankful for this award, and you can know and be assured that I will use it to make the dreams and ambitions that Mrs. Luana Pitts Taylor stood for a reality. I will make a difference.
To the local Charleston Day chapter, Chairperson Ms. Eula Johnson, Second Vice President Ms. Gwen Daly, and to the entire Charleston Day organization. Today I am presenting my speech to express my sincere gratitude to this organization for making the Dr. Ethel Johnson Green Scholarship possible. I was thrilled to learn of my selection for this honor, and I am deeply appreciative of your support. I am currently attending the University of Southern Mississippi. There I am majoring in computer science with hopes of becoming a successful computer programmer. The financial assistance that this organization has provided will be of great help to me in paying my educational expenses. It will allow me to concentrate more of my time for studying. Thank you again for your generosity and support.
That's excellent. Let's have Chavis, would you just stand for us, please? So we can recognize Chavis as well. Thank you. Great. Great. You know, there is a saying that says, if you tell me, I may listen. If you show me, I will pay attention. But if you involve me, I will learn. And that's what these three have done. And we're really, really, truly proud of them. Let's give them another round of applause. For our honor recognitions, we now have Mr. Avin Johnson, National President, Chicago, Illinois.
Good evening. We're going to dispense with some of the formalities. We're going to try to move this as fast as we can. But we are giving these plaques in honor of sacrifices that some Charlestonians has made to all of us in the past. Normally, this organization gives 25-year awards to members who are members of the chapters, the numerous chapters across the country. But this year, since we're coming home, we thought that it would be appropriate for us to just say thank you to some people who made contribution to all of us. And there's a lot of people that we could have gave awards to. We could have gave 100 awards, but we're giving it to 11, and we appreciate each and every one of them. And we just want to say thank you from the Charleston Day organization to these individuals. And not meaning any disrespect to anybody who's not receiving an award. We love all of you. And there's numerous teachers here that we could have given awards to, or we just couldn't give it to everybody. So the one that's receiving it, we really appreciate you and thank you. So what we're going to do, we got Mr. Willis here on the floor, and this is how we're going to do it to try to make it as fast as possible. When I call your name, could you just stand where you are, and Mr. Willis will bring the award to you. Ms. Daly will hand it to him. The first person is Reverend Willie Blue. He was an organizer for the SNCC, SNCC, the organization that was in the forefront of the fight for the right to vote for blacks in the South. He served as a liaison between SNCC and other civil rights organizations in the Chicago area in the mid-'60s, and he was instrumental in bringing Dr. King to Charleston in the mid-'60s. He also wrote the Allen Carver High School song that those of us from Allen Carver heard before. So thank you, Mr. Blue. The next person is Lucy M. Boyd, Mrs. Lucy May Boyd. She was the first president of the NAACP in Tallahatchie County at a time when it was dangerous to be affiliated with the organization. You can read about her on the Mississippi Sovereignty Commission's website. She's currently a columnist for the Sun Sentinel newspaper in Charleston. And those of us who subscribe to that paper or we read that paper, we know that Mrs. Boyd is a noted Bible scholar, and she's serious, and she has the tools to know what she's talking about. So she had an interesting statement in one of her columns maybe a couple of months ago. And Ms. Boyd, I'm paraphrasing, so forgive me if I don't get it exactly right. But she says something that I think is important to all of us, even though she has lots of tools, and I'm sure she had lots of Bibles, concordances, and a lot of things to study from. But she said that if you weren't there when God gave the tablets to Moses, or when they discovered the scrolls, then you are probably taking somebody else's interpretation. So you have to read it and study for yourself. And Ms. Boyd, you're one of the best, and we appreciate what you've done for us in the past and what you're still doing for us. The next person is Grafton Curtis. And some of us who remember him, we knew him as Son Curtis. Some of us never knew his first name, and I didn't know it either. He organized the first Little League team for black youth in the town of Charleston. He was a businessman, and he's the stepfather of Charleston's most famous citizen, renowned actor Morgan Freeman, and the husband of Ms. Mamie Curtis, who worked as a secretary and in other capacity at Allen Cover High School. Now, receiving the award for him is his son, Clifton Curtis. And we thank you, Mr. Curtis, for coming out and receiving this award for your father. The next person is Mr. Richard P. Gardner. And this idea to give these awards came up when Mr. Gardner was alive. And this is an award that I hate to give in the fashion that we are giving it, since he's not here with us. But we thought that his contribution should be honored. And he's made numerous contributions to the improvement of civic lives of Charlestonians. He was the first black elected official in Charleston. He played an intricate part in a political movement that led to the election of the first black congressional representative in the state of Mississippi in over a century. He was a pioneering member and vice president of the Charleston chapter of the Charleston Day organization. His daughters, Linda and Sylvia, is here, and they will receive the award for Mr. Gardner. And thank you, Living and Sylvia, for coming out. The next person is Dr. Ethel Green and her husband, Matt Green. Mr. Green was due to be here with us today, but he had some illness and he couldn't make the trip. His doctor advised him against it. So we are giving this award to in honor of Mrs. Green and to Mr. Matt Green. And since I'm from Chicago and he's serving as our Chicago chapter president, I will take the award back to him. But Dr. Green, she was the founder of this NCDO, a group organized to give in the form of scholarships and other donations and encouragements to the youth of Charleston and the surrounding community. Her husband, Matt Green, helped and supported her in a labor of love, and since her death in 2001, he has personally donated tens of thousands of dollars to the organization. So you can thank the National for giving these awards to these individuals. But Mr. Green, he paid for it. Instead of coming out of the National Treasurer, he paid for it himself. Now the next person is Mr. Robert Hill. Those of you who know Cedric and know the job that he's doing with the Robert Hill Youth Foundation, know that Robert Hill is he was the founder of this organization, and Cedric is carrying on in his footsteps. Now, Cedric was supposed to be here to accept this award for him. I don't think that he's here. But all of you who have this program book, if you don't have it, get one, because what I'm reading to you now is in all of these programs books, and you will have it for a keepsake. The next person that receiving this award is Mrs. Berta Kegler of Charleston. She was the first black to vote in Tallahatchie County. Since the state's second Reconstruction, the early voter rights advocate was murdered along with another passenger in the car with her, Mrs. Adeline Hamlin, in 1966. She is the subject of an article on buzz.com, Dying to Vote in Mississippi. Google her name and view other information about her, and also read about her efforts at www.mda.com. Is Ms. Edith Kegler, Mrs. Berto's granddaughter, has received the award for her. And thank you, Edith, for coming. The next person is our speaker for tonight, Wazir Willie B. Peacock. And I love this man, and we can't do him justice. Everybody should try to read about the history of this guy. He's done some things that's really marvelous that most of us don't know about, but history is rewarding that. And so you have to do a little work. You have to do a little research and do a little study to read about him. But he's one of us. He's from Charleston. And we talk about famous people in the world. A lot of people around the world honor this man and others, but we don't know about him. So it kind of frustrates me sometimes, but that's life. Mr. Peacock graduated from high school in Charleston, and as a college student joined the Civil Rights Movement. Mr. Peacock and Mr. Sam Block is given credit by Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, for starting the voters' rights registration movement in the town of Greenwood, Mississippi. And for you who are not from around here, Greenwood is only about 40 miles from Charleston. He helped to start that movement that led to what is called Freedom Summer in 1964. And historians say that events surrounding that movement had a major influence on the Congress that passed voters' rights legislation in 1965. You can read about Mr. Peacock in numerous situations, in numerous places. So, Mr. Peacock, we just want to say thank you. The next person is Luanne Pierce Taylor. She's from the Cleveland chapter, and she was a past president of the national organization. She was a pioneer member of the Charleston Day organization, and she served as a past president, and her knowledge and ideas helped the organization in its formative years to formulate the bylaws and mission statements that guides the organization today. One of the annual scholarships that are awarded to a graduate of Charleston High School is named in her honor. Now, Anna, she serves as a Cleveland president of the National Charleston Day organization. And Edna, please forgive me. All right. Okay. The next person is Jimmy Lewis and Ruth L. Willis. They're the father of Mr. Tom Willis. And they were a husband and wife that lived in Charleston who took great risk when they provided a place to stay, sometimes overnight, other times for weekends to civil rights workers who needed shelter and had no place else to go. A civil rights worker once told me that if you ever honor anybody from Charleston, he said, don't forget about Ruth L. and Jimmy Lewis. So we didn't forget about them. So Mr. Tom Willis will accept the award for those two people. And Mr. Jimmy Lewis was the first black policeman in Charleston. And until recently, I didn't know the risk that he was taking until I was reading about some incidents in Louisiana and Alabama where men who became the first black policemen in their town ended up losing their lives because some people in the Klan didn't like the idea that you had a black policeman. So these people took great risks taking those positions. And it helped to give me new respect for the sacrifice that Mr. Willis took. So, Tom, thank you. And the last person is Mr. Tommy Lewis Willis himself. Through his courage and academic ability, became the first black to graduate from Charleston High School in 1967. Mr. Willis has been a member of the Charleston Day organization for 25 years and served as national president for 6 years. And he's currently serving as the first vice president of the organization. And he represented us well. And we thank you, Mr. Willis. Okay.
Thank you so much. It is great to be honored to have those recognitions. Next, we have Miss Gwen Daly, the past president of the local chapter. She's going to do the memorial tribute, lighting of the candle.
And so it is written that there is a paradise and an eternity beyond the toils and strifes of this earth, that we shall all enter because it is the will of God. I stand before you this evening to lead the memorial remembrance of our deceased members from all of the chapters for the National Charleston Day organization. We won't be lighting a candle, and very expeditiously, what I will do is call the names that were submitted to us, and if a family member or a member from that chapter will stand, and after then we will just have a round of applause. From the Atlanta chapter, deceased member Alva Bellamy. From the Charleston chapter, deceased members Frank Diltz, Emma Noel, James Johnson, Constant Frost. If someone would stand, a family member or a member of the chapter when I call these names. Frank Diltz, Emma Noel, James Johnson, Constance Frost, Sally Williams, Charlie Alford, Inez Lee, Jamie Patterson, Walter Bernard, Richard Gardner, Janelle Gray, Josie Woody, Grafton Gray, Theola Daly, Lindsay Matkins, Charlie Lee, Steve Mitchell, Lucille Bryant, Jimmy Taylor, Ernestine Curry. Someone should be standing when I call the Ernestine Curry, Parthenia Blackman, Viola Johnson, Joe Weekly, Kalula Gardner, Zelma Carr, Mildred Meeks, Merriweather, Sarah Towns, N.A. Beauclair, Willie Daly III, Clifton Williams, Hattie Bernard, Lubertha Alford, Tony Bankston, Jesse Lee Williams, Irene Hayes. Chicago Charleston Day Club. If a member of these people's family or a member of the club would please stand when I call the names. Dr. Ethel Johnson Green, Mrs. Arkansas Doyle, Napoleon Gray, Mariella Hudson, Tommy Tatum, Verta C. McClendon, Lucius Hawkins, Janie Morgan, Theodore Morgan, Laura Saucer, Naomi Smith, Berkeley Hayes, Inez Hayes, Richard Street, Brownie Brown, Mildred Terry Wilson, Elma Boyd. From the Cincinnati chapter, William Drake Jr., Norman Sales Jr. From the Cleveland chapter, Mrs. Luannie Pitts Taylor, Lillian Taylor, Jimmy Taylor, Pearl Smith, Effie Smith, Leardy Taylor, Andre Taylor, Emma Jean Barnes, Charles T. Barnes, Thomas Phillips, Ludella Mollett, Desiree Powell, Sherry Holmes, David Holmes, Georgia Clark, Ernestine Fleming, Kathleen Harris, Henry Hudson, Eula Hudson, Lily Catherine Matthews, Ruth Matthews Owens. From the Detroit chapter, deceased, William Walton, Marjorie Ratliff, Ollie Williams, Velma Fox, Odessa Ferris, Roscoe Coleman, L.D. Johnson, Ida Bell Smith, Mary Dawson, Aceel Lloyd, Charles Shipp. From the Memphis chapter, deceased Mildred Walker, Hugh Jimmy Walker, Rosalie Kimbrell, Freddie Jones, Willie Grant. From the St. Louis chapter, deceased John Johnson, Julia Johnson, Michael Johnson, Ruby Johnson, Rochester Buckley, Eddie B. Davis, Thomas McCloria, Norman Davis Jr., Joseph Ozier, Rachel Ozier, Charlie Griffin, Lucille Griffin, McKinley Hicks, Catherine Hicks, Leslie Bridges, William Hamilton. These are our deceased members, and the intent was to have a lot of people standing by the time we finished calling these names. But that's okay. This is our memorial tribute to our